Lives of the Stoics Summary. What's the story of Lives of the Stoics? Imagine taking a journey back in time to explore Stoicism, a philosophy that's been around for ages. In this book, Lives of the Stoics from 2020, you get to know the early followers of Stoicism by diving into their lives. It's like a historical adventure filled with stories about leaders, wars, and the politics of ancient times, giving you a unique and fresh perspective on this popular philosophy. Who's the author of Lives of the Stoics? Ryan Holiday, an American author and media strategist, is the brain behind this book. He doesn't just stop there, he also owns a bookstore and hosts the Daily Stoic podcast. If you're into his style, you might want to check out his other books like Stillness is the Key, Ego is the Enemy, and The Obstacle is the Way. Then we have Stephen Hanselman, another author and publisher. He's got a solid educational background, studying at Fresno Pacific University and earning a master's degree from Harvard Divinity School. You might recognize him from his previous work, The Daily Stoic. Whose Lives of the Stoics Summary for anyone fascinated by the dynamics of history and philosophy. And for those wishing to learn how to maximize their power to their greatest benefit, why read Lives of the Stoics Summary, wondering what Stoicism brings to your life? It's not just about words, it's about actions. At the heart of Stoicism lies a fundamental question: how should I live? In straightforward terms, how do I handle tough times? How do I embrace happiness? What goals are worth pursuing? What values should guide my life? What choices ensure that, when life concludes, I can reflect on it as well lived? Chances are, you've grappled with these questions. Well, the Stoic philosophers you're about to meet in this summary have some answers. They believe that the ultimate good, the summum bonum, is virtue. Now, what exactly is virtue? According to Zeno, the founding thinker of Stoicism, virtue can be broken down into four types: courage, wisdom, moderation, sometimes called temperance, and justice. These virtues weren't just lofty ideals, the Stoics aimed to embody them in their lives, and they believed everyone should do the same. Courage, wisdom, moderation, justice, these were the qualities the Stoics considered the surest route to a virtuous and good life. Pay attention to that last word, life. Stoicism isn't a philosophy for armchair thinkers. It's about actions, not just words, how you navigate the world, how you conduct yourself, how you truly live. Now, who were these Stoics, and how did they lead their lives? That's what we're diving into. Join us as we travel back to ancient Greece and Rome, delving into the captivating biographies of the most renowned Stoic thinkers. Explore how they embodied Stoicism's core virtues: courage, wisdom, moderation, and justice. See how these virtues shaped their lives, especially in the later stages. So, let's embark on this journey. Let's go back to the very roots, to 4th century BCE Greece, where a philosophy called Stoicism was born from a shipwreck. In this summary, you'll discover why Cleanthes chose oyster shells to pen his philosophy, how Marcus Aurelius faced a pandemic, and how the world's most famous Stoic found himself with blood on his hands. Lives of the Stoics Lessons. 1. Embrace your fate. Meet Zeno, 334 BCE, 262 BCE. Picture yourself on the island of Cyprus, back in the 4th century BCE. On this island resides a man named Zeno, living a comfortable life as a wealthy merchant. His trade involves dealing in a rare purple dye crafted by enslaved laborers from the blood of sea snails. This luxurious dye is highly sought after by the affluent, who use it to adorn their lavish robes. Life is good for Zeno until tragedy strikes. The ship carrying his precious cargo meets a disastrous end at sea. In an instant, everything is lost, and Zeno, along with his family, is left with nothing. One version of the story recounts Zeno's misfortune as the shipwreck, but the details of his whereabouts at the time remain uncertain. What we do know is how Zeno responded. While most people would have been shattered by such a devastating event, Zeno faced his bad luck with resilience and courage, qualities that would later define Stoicism. Instead of lamenting his fate, Zeno embraced it. He moved to Athens, the bustling center of ancient Greece, and transformed himself into a philosopher. In fact, he even expressed appreciation for his misfortune, reportedly saying, "Well done, fortune, to drive me thus to philosophy. 4th century Athens provided the ideal environment for a budding philosopher. With a thriving economy fueled, unfortunately, by the slave trade, the city's educated elite had ample time to ponder life's profound questions. Zeno found a mentor in Crates of Thebes, who initiated him into the fundamentals of philosophy. Zeno's philosophical journey began with an unconventional lesson. Crates instructed him to carry a pot of lentil soup across the city. Feeling this task was beneath him, Zeno took the soup through less traveled streets to avoid attention. Crates intervened, tipping the soup for all to see, teaching Zeno a simple lesson, caring less about others' opinions. In time, Zeno emerged as a respected philosopher in his own right. He founded a new philosophy, Stoicism, and formulated its 4 guiding principles: courage, wisdom, moderation, and justice. True to the Stoic belief that philosophy should not just be theoretical but put into action, Zeno and his followers engaged in discussions in the heart of the city, on the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, in the Agora of Athens. This location gave Stoicism its name, derived from the Stoa, in Stoa Poikile. Perhaps the most striking display of Zeno's humility is that he named his philosophy not after himself, but after the porch where he taught. Now, let's delve into the story of one of Zeno's students, Cleanthes, who studied on that very porch. 2. Physical labor is important. Meet Cleanthes, 330 BCE, 230 BCE. Our next Stoic luminary, Cleanthes, stands as one of Zeno's most dedicated students. Unlike Zeno, Cleanthes hailed from a humble background, his family struggling with poverty. His life was marked by continuous toil, initially out of necessity and later by choice. Born in 330 BCE on the Aegean coast, Cleanthes ventured to Athens as a young man. His primary source of income was a demanding job as a water carrier. The labor was grueling, drawing water from wells, transporting it through the city's myriad gardens, and making repeated trips for more water. His tireless efforts earned him the nickname Phrentos, a playful twist on Cleanthes in Greek, meaning water boy. A water boy he remained. Although it's uncertain, Cleanthes likely didn't encounter Zeno and begin his philosophical journey until he was nearly 50. Throughout this time, he continued his work as a water carrier, even when offered substantial financial assistance by affluent patrons. Despite the wear and tear on his aging body, Cleanthes studied during the day and carried water at night. But why? For Cleanthes, work wasn't just about earning a living. He believed that Philoponia, love of labor, was as crucial as Philosophia, love of wisdom. It's not difficult to understand why. Both demand discipline, falling under the virtue of moderation. Both require diligence, falling under the virtue of courage. Additionally, physical labor, though strenuous, provides the mental space and tranquility to contemplate ideas while carrying out tasks. True to Stoic principles, Cleanthes led an exceedingly frugal life. Reportedly, he wrote down his thoughts on oyster shells and ox bones to avoid purchasing papyrus paper. Yet, these privations, much like the physical exertion of water carrying, didn't bother him, he embraced them. However, not everyone admired this hard-working, penny-pinching philosophy student, this epitome of moderation. Fellow Athenians ridiculed the fact that he spent 2 decades under Zeno's tutelage, labeling him a simpleton, an unyielding lump of stone resistant to molding. Despite the mockery, Cleanthes faced his critics with good humor. Instead of taking offense, he often responded with self-deprecating humor. Far from being a simpleton, Cleanthes was disciplined, hard-working, and impervious to discomfort, yet not devoid of emotion or intelligence. He authored numerous books, exploring topics from pleasure to ethics, physics to logic. A lover of poetry, he even composed verses himself. Throughout his long life, reaching a century or possibly more than any other Stoic, Cleanthes devoted himself unwaveringly to the pursuit of virtue. Onwards. 3. Always do what's right. Introducing Cato the Younger, 95 BCE, 46 BCE. Leaving the realm of Athens, our journey now takes us to Rome, transcending not only geographical boundaries but also spanning more than a century between Cleanthes' passing and the emergence of the next Stoic figure, Cato the Younger. During this time, Stoicism witnessed the likes of Diogenes, the first Stoic addressing practical political questions according to Cicero, and Antipater, a key contributor to the Stoic system of ethics. Cicero, born a decade before Cato, although not a Stoic himself, engaged with and immortalized many Stoic theories in his writings. Why focus on Cato the Younger? Because, more than any other Stoic, he embodied Stoicism through actions, earning his place in history not through words but deeds. Born in Rome in 95 BCE, Cato exhibited from an early age the qualities that defined his life: courage, integrity, and an unyielding commitment to justice and freedom. An illustrative incident from his childhood speaks volumes. At the age of 4, a burly soldier, perturbed about a citizenship matter, visited Cato's home. Seeking the influence of Cato's powerful uncle, the soldier wanted Cato to speak on his behalf. Remarkably, even at that tender age, Cato refused. Attempting to intimidate him, the soldier dangled him by the ankles from a high balcony. Unfazed, Cato didn't plead for his life. He remained composed, and in the end, the soldier acknowledged defeat to a little boy. This steadfastness characterized Cato throughout his life: fearless, unshakable, concerned only with what was right. Highlights of his life include: childhood, stood up to bullies, defending younger kids against older ones. Age 23, volunteered for military service, fought bravely against Spartacus for 3 years. Age 27, became a military tribune, the only uncorrupt candidate, adhering to all campaign laws. In 65 BCE, at the age of 30, Cato entered public office and joined the Roman Senate with a singular mission: combat corruption and steer Rome back to its true path. His actions spoke louder than words. Fired corrupt employees. Arrived at work before everyone else. Left work after everyone else. Refused luxurious job perks. Refused to wear fancy robes. Avoided throwing parties or wearing perfume. Cato's unwavering rectitude irked fellow senators and made him enemies. To those less morally upright, his mere presence was a constant reminder of their shortcomings. But Cato was indifferent to their opinions. He cared not for what they thought, caring only for virtue. Doing what was right, always, was his sole concern. It was a noble stance, but ultimately, his refusal to compromise on his convictions led to his demise. Cato believed in the Roman Republic and opposed Caesar's dictatorial rise. However, he resisted compromise, even when Pompey proposed marrying Cato's daughter for political alliance. Cato's refusal allowed Pompey to align with Caesar, ushering in an autocratic future for Rome. Cato's stand could have altered history had he descended from his moral high ground, forming an alliance with Pompey. Resisting Caesar at every turn, Cato faced the consequences when Caesar triumphed, refusing to live under an autocrat. Obstinate to the end, Cato chose to end his life, reading Socrates on his final evening and facing death with the same bravery he exhibited as a 4-year-old boy confronting a soldier's threats. Next. 4. Be indifferent to pain. Meet Portia Cato, 70 BCE, 42 or 43 BCE. In our exploration of the ancient philosophical landscape, you might have noticed a significant absence: where are the women? Unfortunately, much like in the broader sweep of human history, the stories of women in Stoicism have often been overlooked. Nevertheless, behind the scenes, unsung women endured the same tyrannies, wars, and hardships as their male counterparts. They bore children, including figures like Zeno, Cleanthes, and Cato of ancient Greece and Rome, yet their struggles and sacrifices remained unrecorded and unappreciated by the annals of history. Despite this historical silence, one woman's Stoic actions have been etched into the records: Portia Cato, the daughter of Cato the Younger. After facing the loss of her first husband during Rome's civil war, Portia remarried a man named Brutus. In the midst of their union, Brutus and his co-conspirators plotted to assassinate Julius Caesar, the emperor and dictator of Rome. Sensing her husband's involvement without knowing the specifics, Portia opted for an extreme demonstration to prove her worth as a confidant. While many would simply ask for details of the plot, Portia, embodying true Stoicism, understood the power of actions over words. In Brutus's absence, she took a knife and stabbed herself in the thigh. When Brutus returned to find her weakened from blood loss, she proclaimed, "Look at the pain I can endure." By this act, she showcased her Stoic character, affirming her ability to withstand extreme pain. The gesture was her way of assuring Brutus that she wouldn't break under interrogation if tortured for information. Convinced of her iron will, Brutus promptly shared the details of the plot with her. On March 15, when he and his co-conspirators assassinated Caesar with 23 stabs, Portia anxiously awaited at home, praying for the success of their plan. Portia's display of Stoic courage and indifference to pain didn't end there. 2 years after Caesar's assassination, Brutus met his demise in a civil war instigated by Mark Antony, a staunch supporter of Caesar. While conflicting accounts exist about Portia's reaction, one writer reports that upon learning of her husband's death, she hastened to the fireplace and swallowed hot coals, taking her own life, echoing her father's previous choice. Like her father before her, Portia refused to live under an oppressive regime, facing her fate with the same courage and calm decisiveness. 5. Avoid cruelty. Meet Seneca, 4 BCE, 65 CE. Seneca the Younger stands as one of the most renowned Stoic philosophers in history, primarily remembered for his literary contributions, notably the collection of philosophical letters titled Moral Letters. However, while Seneca is lauded for his insights into moral judgment, his own actions present a more morally ambiguous narrative. In adherence to Stoic philosophy, which emphasizes a moral duty to engage in politics for the greater good, Seneca accepted an invitation in 50 CE to tutor a 12-year-old boy named Nero, the adopted son of Emperor Claudius. Despite Seneca's attempts to instill Stoic values like wisdom, justice, and mercy in Nero, the young heir displayed early signs of cruelty and entitlement. 4 years later, after Nero's mother, Agrippina, murdered Claudius, Nero ascended to the throne. In the subsequent years, Nero revealed tyrannical and psychopathic tendencies, committing murders and eliminating potential rivals. Shockingly, Seneca remained loyal to Nero, even as the emperor's actions became increasingly brutal. While Seneca did counsel Nero to show mercy to his enemies, he lacked the courage or self-discipline to distance himself when his advice went unheeded. Instead, Seneca seized the opportunity to amass considerable wealth, built on Nero's malevolent deeds. Despite rationalizing his proximity to power as fulfilling his Stoic political duty, Seneca's wealth became intertwined with Nero's atrocities. In the end, Seneca fell short of the moral strength displayed by figures like Cato and Portia. Turning against Nero, Seneca became involved in a failed assassination plot, leading to Nero ordering him to take his own life. Seneca's death mirrored the philosophical musings on mortality that he had explored throughout his life. In his final moments, Seneca attempted various methods to end his life, including slitting his wrists and consuming poison. When these proved ineffective, he was moved to a steaming bath, immortalized in paintings by artists like Peter Paul Rubens and Jacques-Louis David, where he finally ceased his mortal existence. Seneca's complex legacy encompasses both his Stoic teachings and his complicity in the morally questionable actions of Emperor Nero. Next, 6. Live your beliefs. Meet Epictetus, 55 CE, 135 CE. At the heart of Stoicism lies an ardent pursuit of freedom. Cleanthes discovered a kind of freedom in labor, finding mental stillness amid physical exertion. Cato and Portia, in choosing death over life under an oppressive regime, asserted their commitment to freedom. Seneca emphasized that freedom is the ultimate goal, avoiding enslavement to anything. Yet, Epictetus, our next Stoic, uniquely embodied this pursuit of freedom. Born into enslavement, his very name, meaning acquired one, reflected his initial condition. However, at the age of 30, when granted his freedom, Epictetus devoted himself wholly to philosophy. In the years that followed, he became a renowned teacher, spreading Stoicism across the land, attracting large crowds, and earning admiration, even from the Emperor Hadrian. Despite never writing down his teachings, Epictetus's wisdom endured through the diligent recording of a devoted student. His experiences as a former slave deeply influenced his philosophy. For instance, He taught the profound idea that all situations have two handles. While we may not control the situation, we have the power to choose our response, the handle we grasp. This choice shapes our life and molds our character. Epictetus particularly despised two faults: the inability to restrain oneself and the inability to endure difficulties. His guidance to his students was succinct yet challenging: persist in what is virtuous, resist what is not. The simplicity of the concept belies the difficulty of its practice. Furthermore, he cautioned against the enslaving allure of external rewards. Ambition, greed, desire for travel, learning, or leisure, these external pursuits, while not inherently bad, can be taken away or denied. True happiness, according to Epictetus, hinges on focusing on internals, aspects that no one can seize, such as one's temper, ego, and reactions. Epictetus's teachings profoundly influenced the last Stoic figure, Marcus Aurelius. Although Marcus left a wealth of writings, he also embraced one of Epictetus's key teachings: don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. This encapsulates the essence of Stoicism, not just understanding it intellectually but living it in every aspect of life. Onwards. 7. Master your feelings. Meet Marcus Aurelius, 121 CE, 180 CE. In the annals of history, the adage absolute power corrupts absolutely often finds validation. However, our final Stoic figure, Marcus Aurelius, stands as a compelling exception to this rule. Through the luminous example of his life and leadership, Marcus demonstrated the remarkable potential of humanity. His adherence to Stoicism arguably played a pivotal role in his exceptional achievements, making him the world's first philosopher king. Born into a respected Roman family in 121 CE, Marcus was only 17 when Emperor Hadrian, lacking a natural heir, selected him as the successor and welcomed him into the imperial family. Rather than succumbing to the trappings of power, Marcus retained his kindness and humility. Even in the palace, he continued to visit his tutors rather than requiring them to come to him. A defining moment of his benevolence occurred when, as a gesture of radical goodwill, Marcus shared power with his adoptive brother Lucius, making him co-emperor. In an era where rulers often eliminated rivals, Marcus's magnanimity was exceptional. Even when facing betrayal from his political ally Cassius, who plotted against him, Marcus chose forgiveness, mourning when someone took revenge on Cassius. Exemplifying true Stoicism, Marcus consistently prioritized the well-being of ordinary Romans over personal comfort. During the Antonine Plague, he faced the choice of increasing taxes to replenish the treasury or selling the ornaments from his imperial palaces. In an act of selflessness, he chose the latter, showcasing his commitment to the greater good. Marcus Aurelius's writings, particularly in his book Meditations, reveal his inner struggles with jealousy, anger, and lust. Unlike many who succumb to these emotions, Marcus sought mastery over them. Guided by Stoic wisdom, he constructed a moral framework that shaped his leadership. His life and writings stand as a potent demonstration of the transformative power of Stoicism. Marcus used this philosophy not only to better himself but also to hold himself accountable, striving towards an ideal self and a virtuous life. His example, immortalized in his writings, serves as compelling evidence that individuals can follow a similar path of self-improvement and moral virtue. Lives of the Stoics Review. In conclusion, the essence of Stoicism is best captured in the deeds of its practitioners, showcasing the tangible impact of living by Stoic principles. Understanding the examples of Stoicism is deemed as crucial, if not more so, than delving into Stoic ideas alone. The narratives of ancient Stoics, their pursuit of courage, wisdom, moderation, and justice, serve as practical illustrations of this philosophy in action. To further explore Stoic thought and its real-world applications, I recommend immersing yourself in Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman's The Daily Stoic. This resource provides insightful meditations inspired by the teachings of prominent Stoics such as Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. It serves as a valuable guide for those seeking to incorporate Stoic principles into their daily lives, offering reflections and practices that draw from the wisdom of these ancient philosophers. Lives of the Stoics quotes. Ryan Holiday quotes, "Your potential, the absolute best you're capable of, that's the metric to measure yourself against." Your standards are. Winning is not enough. People can get lucky and win. People can be assholes and win. Anyone can win. But not everyone is the best possible version of themselves. There is no good or bad without us. There is only perception. There is the event itself and the story we tell ourselves about what it means. Impressing people is utterly different from being truly impressive. And that's what is so insidious about talk. Anyone can talk about himself or herself. Even a child knows how to gossip and chatter. Most people are decent at hype and sales. So what is scarce and rare? Silence. The ability to deliberately keep yourself out of the conversation and subsist without its validation. Silence is the respite of the confident and the strong. When intelligent people read, they ask themselves a simple question: what do I plan to do with this information? Think progress, not perfection. Those who have subdued their ego understand that it doesn't degrade you when others treat you poorly, it degrades them. We forget, in life, it doesn't matter what happens to you or where you came from. It matters what you do with what happens and what you've been given. The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition. Most successful people are people you've never heard of. They want it that way. It keeps them sober. It helps them do their jobs. Focus on the moment, not the monsters that may or may not be up ahead. When we remove ego, we're left with what is real. What replaces ego is humility, yes, but rock-hard humility and confidence. Whereas ego is artificial, this type of confidence can hold weight. Ego is stolen. Confidence is earned. Ego is self-anointed, its swagger is artifice. One is girding yourself, the other gaslighting. It's the difference between potent and poisonous. If an emotion can't change the condition or the situation you're dealing with, it is likely an unhelpful emotion. Or, quite possibly, a destructive one. But it's what I feel. Right, no one said anything about not feeling it. No one said you can't ever cry. Forget manliness. If you need to take a moment, by all means, go ahead. Real strength lies in the control or, as Nassim Taleb put it, the domestication of one's emotions, not in pretending they don't exist. Almost universally, the kind of performance we give on social media is positive. It's more, let me tell you how well things are going. Look how great I am. It's rarely the truth, I'm scared. I'm struggling. I don't know. Where the head goes, the body follows. Perception precedes action. Right action follows the right perspective. Wherever we are, whatever we're doing and wherever we are going, we owe it to ourselves, to our art, to the world to do it well. When success begins to slip from your fingers, for whatever reason, the response isn't to grip and claw so hard that you shatter it to pieces. It's to understand that you must work yourself back to the aspirational phase. You must get back to first principles and best practices. The only real failure is abandoning your principles. Killing what you love because you can't bear to part from it is selfish and stupid. If your reputation can't absorb a few blows, it wasn't worth anything in the first place. The pretense of knowledge is our most dangerous vice, because it prevents us from getting any better. Work is finding yourself alone at the track when the weather kept everyone else indoors. Work is pushing through the pain and crappy first drafts and prototypes. It is ignoring whatever plaudits others are getting, and more importantly, ignoring whatever plaudits you may be getting. Because there is work to be done. Work doesn't want to be good. It is made so, despite the headwind. Greatness comes from humble beginnings. It comes from grunt work. It means you're the least important person in the room, until you change that with results. You're not as good as you think. You don't have it all figured out. Stay focused. Do better. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.